Hey Rebels, welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since my last video, so I wanted to hop on here and shed some light on the markets as I see it. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets right now, which can make it very tricky to know which way to look. So I want to showcase how simple it can be for you to interpret data yourself and actually get a better view of what the market is actually doing rather than having to rely on market gurus or the narrative at the time. Because after all, price is king and money talks, right? So we can actually just dive into the charts themselves and look at historical data pretty quickly, actually, to get a better idea, better gauge of what's actually happening in the market. So I want to showcase that with you right now, actually, because the bulls are getting very excited right now. I'm starting to hear them get very loud. Bitcoin has been going sideways for some time now, many months actually, and this rally is starting to get the bulls very excited, right? So what the bulls are seeing right now is that we've had this massive capitulation low here and a lot of extreme fear. So to them, that means that all of the sellers have sold. There's nobody left to sell. All the sellers have left the building. This is very dangerous because effectively markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, which means that you could actually be chasing this thing down a lot farther than you think. It's the same in reverse to the upside, actually. Markets can go in any direction longer than you anticipate, right? So let's actually go through the historical data and see how that's panning out. So in a bull market, you can see that, well, what they're saying is correct. You have price capitulation to the downside. You dip your toe in extreme fear, and then it sets you up for the next leg. Same thing here, price capitulation. You dip your toe into extreme fear, sets you up for the next leg. All right. However, in a bear market, you can see that you can spend very long periods of time in extreme fear without price going any higher. And in fact, capitulating even lower before you have the final price low. And then long periods of sideways action and low volatility before you actually get that expansion higher, right? Same thing with the previous market here. Longer extended periods in extreme fear down here before price actually finally does find the actual price low and climb its way out. So timing wise, usually these things take a lot longer once you've seen that fear. And that actually makes sense, right? It's like, okay, yeah, sure. In a bull market, when people are making money, yeah, people are going to get really scared for a short period of time, but then the market's going to take off because it's a bull market and they're going to get, the fear is not going to stick around for very long. But when prices have been just absolutely demolished for some period of time, it's going to take some time for like faith in that market to come back, right? So you can actually see extended periods of extreme fear, 77 days according to this. So I wanted to shed some light on that. That was just a very simple exercise, and we went through that very rapidly just to start to see the different behaviors in a bull and a bear market. I think at this point we can all agree that we are in a bear market. Well, we can't all agree, but I think the majority of people are starting to tend that way, but it takes quite some time. We've been talking about it for quite some time on the channel. Um, we actually started showing the weakness in Bitcoin in August of 25 when we basically broke this momentum, suggesting that we had to be on our toes. And effectively, I've been out of the market since Bitcoin broke these tops and was unable to hold this 108 level. That was actually a pretty. There was a lot of other factors at the time that I made videos on over and over and over again, just trying to like drive home the weakness in Bitcoin. And everybody's basically been screaming to buy the dip ever since. And that's not really not going very well for them. So the bulls are starting to get very loud. This is kind of the last desperate place for the bulls to actually see their thesis play out where you're getting this capitulation and nobody's left to sell. Okay, maybe, that's you're just saying words there at that point. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to use objective tools so that I can measure strength and weakness so that the market can give me an idea of like, well, are we in a position of strength or in a position of weakness, right? And so one way to do that is I've used these 50% tools, and you can see that the entire leg up, we've never dipped back below, right? We've always taken two steps up, one step back, kind of an idea. Two steps up, one step back. We've never dipped below that major 50% level until recently. And we've had consolidation below this 50% level. That is very weak to me. And well, it's just objectively weak because we're consolidating below these levels, below these significant bottoms here, and below this trend line, right? So right now, Bitcoin is weak on many indicators. Now, in order for the market to prove this bull thesis, which I'm not saying there isn't, and I'm not saying that there's no tradable upside, because theoretically, we could test higher prices from here, and even higher prices. Let's see, that's 72%. That's a damn good move. I'm not saying that we can't be in the market, but we have to we have to come up with a plan and some kind of analysis to tell us what's actually happening because the bulls are going to be bullish and the bears are going to be bearish, right? And they're just and they're also there to steal attention and to make money off of people's attention and people's views. So there's always a conflict of interest there. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what they need to tell you because if they've been telling you to buy the dip the entire time, well, they're going to have to be screaming pretty loud right now to try to make up for it effectively, right? So we want to cut through all that fucking bullshit and just what are the charts saying? What are the charts saying? Price is king. Price is the truth. The price tells you what the buyers and sellers are doing. You don't have to go listen to a YouTuber. And effectively, if I do my job right, you won't really need to come and listen to me either. You'll be able to do this yourself. And that would honestly be pretty rad, right? So anyway, now that that tirade is out of the way, what do we want to see in order for Bitcoin to prove this strength? Well, very simply for me, I want to see higher lows above this major 50% level and above this trend line, okay, to get any sign of strength coming back into the market. Now, I also have this overbalance in time and price here, which just tells us this is the farthest and longest that the bulls have been able to push against the counter trend or against the trend. So the trend is down. This is the longest and farthest that they've been able to counter trend. So if I project that from this low, this is also going to be a price point in which we want to push beyond. Now, right now, it looks as though we've been able to kind of basically be, since the low, we've actually been pushing higher for longer. We have just not pushed price higher. So once we've pushed price higher for longer, it gives us an indication that yes, this downtrend is actually mechanically showing us that there is a change in momentum, that there's a shift. Not only have we broken the trend, but we've seen on a technical level that the bulls have been able to push price higher for longer. And that is significant. That's something that you want to pay attention to, right? Because it's actually helped us in the bull market when we had this same thing happen during this time, which basically indicated to us that right here was going to be a very good place to enter the market. We didn't get the exact low, but by that time, 8 months had passed and nobody believed that it could possibly go anywhere. And we were getting that mechanical signal saying that, like, hey, the bulls have actually taken control of the trend, and we went up from there very rapidly, actually, right? So this is still in the cards. This is something that we want to pay attention to. I think that this is something that we can trade. And if you're trading altcoins, okay, well then let's just look at ETH BTC because ETH BTC is kind of the barometer for altcoins, right? If altcoins are going to do well or benefit at all from this environment, then ETH BTC, should be going higher. Of course, that's not going to load. Why not? ETH BTC. There we go. I'll get rid of some of this noise, some of this noise. Yeah. So what we can see is we have broken trend. We broke out of this long-term downtrend, and we were consolidating in the upper half of this tool, upper half of this trend. We've kind of broken since, and it's not as clear, right? So I'm not really convinced by this price action yet, to be honest. Like, I mean, this just doesn't seem well, it's just not convincing. It's not convincing to me, really. It's not able to hold this 50% level. I would want to see a cleaner consolidation above this. So I'm not really necessarily as convinced yet. The other thing I wanted to talk about, USDT dominance. We are getting some rejection at these levels. Again, kind of in a trading range here. But if I go to actually the entire stablecoin market, there's actually a little bit more room to the upside. So I wanted to just point that out to where, some people will say like, oh, this is the highest that the dominance has ever been. It can't possibly go beyond that. And so we have to have dollars go from dollars into the crypto space. I'm not gonna say that that's true, but anyway, if you combine these stablecoin dominances, there's actually room to the upside. So for me, that actually is all kind of lining up for my thesis, really, which is because Bitcoin has not proven that it's broken the 4 year cycle. I don't believe that the 4 year cycle is going to last forever. And in fact, I thought we were on our way to breaking it this cycle and that we may actually end up with that 5 year cycle that was the narrative at the time. And you can see how that narrative just got you stuck in the market. Really, we peaked exactly 4 year cycle. It just happened. My plan 3 years ago was to sell in November of 2025. And that's exactly when we peaked. Okay. So I mean, it just hasn't disproven itself yet, right? So anyway, I'm going to make this part quick with the cycle analysis here. Quarter 3 of this year, hopefully start to see that macro low, which does line up with some of the other projections that I've done with the cycle analysis when I put the 20 and 60 year together, as well as the midterms, which I'll actually just do that really quick so you can see quickly. 20 and 60-year cycle, we started to diverge from that a little bit. We were following the peaks and troughs pretty well, but then we actually started seeing more weakness in this model, which made me start thinking that, okay, well, maybe this model is not going to be the one that we're going to be following. But what I was saying at the time is, second half of the year seems like we do start to trend higher for the 20 and 60, and then same with the midterm years. Midterm years can be very boring. Not a lot of trending until the later half of that year. So those two models were suggesting to me, because they were following the price action at the time, that quarter three of this year might start to see some more upside. And we actually start to see lows printed in Q3 is really what I'm seeing across the board. That's very interesting that the lows printing in the quarter three also end up lining up with Bitcoin's low quarter three. We'll have to see how that works out. But other than that, that 100-year cycle seems to be panning out pretty well. We're starting to see the troughs and the peaks line up quite nicely. The capitulation low here that we had climbing out of that quite rapidly in a very similar shape. The lows are lining up. And so, whether we just go straight up from here, we consolidate sideways a little bit in a position of strength, and then yes, maybe we do go on to print marginally higher prices. That is all possible. So, but the biggest thing I want to, the biggest caveat to all of this is that the volume is piss poor. Like, we have absolutely abysmal volume, and we've been talking about this on the channel over and over and over and over and over again, how important volume is, and the clues that it has been given us the entire time on whether something is going to have any legs. So in the short term, I don't have a lot of faith in crypto's price action, but I would definitely want to be seeing much higher volumes than we're seeing now. And I would actually want to see this volume start to trend higher as we start to see price higher. If you start seeing price trend higher without this volume really doing anything, well, again, volume is the lifeblood of the market. And if you don't have any blood, you're not doing too well. You're not healthy. So this is the biggest caveat that I can say. We've talked about the weakness in Bitcoin and how, yes, there's potential for, us. There is a potential that the charts, we have to wait for it, but the charts could confirm that, yes, we're going to have a leg, or there's going to be a tradable range. And by all means, trade it, go for it, go nuts. But this is going to be the thing you're going to want to watch like a hawk. And if we don't have the volume there, you're going to want to use this analysis to your advantage and just be basically taking profits aggressively, right? Analysis is different than trading, but the analysis can give you a weather vane basically on like, well, what's the weather like? And it's like, well, can I go out without a coat? And it's like, well, yes, but it's like, 0 degrees. So how long are you going to be outside? Right? You're going to have to, yeah, sure, go outside, knock yourself out, have your snowball fight, but you're going to want to get back in and play it safe eventually, right? Because you're not going to want to be out there all day when it's freezing ass cold. So anyway, hopefully that analogy was a little bit helpful. I know we've gone through a lot today. Leave some comments down below and some markets that you want me to talk about. I am hoping to do a video this weekend, and I will cover the stock markets, gold, silver, oil. Those are some big markets right now that are popping off, and then get into the commodity space too, as well as give you some tools and insights on how you can start to identify markets as they're taking off or before they're taking off, right? So anyway, until next time, stay rebellious, my friends.